Hey, it's Roy Newgate, and we're back with another One Piece discussion. Now, for this video, I wanted to give my thoughts on what I think Zoro's role is for the remainder of the raid, and at the same time, the remainder of the arc. Now, I wanted to make this video months ago because around that time is when it was presumed that Zoro's involvement in the rooftop battle was over. But in hindsight, I'm glad I waited as long as I did, because now we have all this extra information and content to discuss as it relates to how things will progress going forward. But before I get too deep, if this is your first time here, or you just generally enjoy One Piece discussions like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button to stay posted on all of my videos. And hit the like button as well because that helps a lot too. I think I should start off by saying, I do think that Zoro has a little bit of unfinished business with Kaido. And the big reason for this is that there is a number of unresolved plot lines that involve Zoro having a second round. These range from forging a black blade to avenging Yasue and a few other things I'll talk about in detail. But let's get right into the Black Blade talk because I think that's the one aspect that is a little more open-ended. I've previously done a Black Blade video in which I said I think Zoro will turn Enma black in Wano, and that was mostly predicated on the fact that Enma as a blade itself loses relevance once we leave the island. I don't think it's something to be saved for later because the potential to tie it into the story is lost at that point. Its greatest significance is right here, and Enma has a history that's linked specifically to Kaido and no one else on the island. It's not linked to Orochi or King. This also leads to the plot point about surpassing Oden. He was unable to forge a black blade, but in Zoro's hands that may be possible. And you know, some people believe this will happen in a fight against King, but to me it wouldn't make much sense that Oden was unable to do this against a threat on the level of Kaido, just to have Zoro do it against his subordinate. The impact would not be there at all, especially given how rare black blades are. And when it comes to black blades as a whole, we still do not have a definitive answer as to how they are made, but things are becoming clearer one way or another. I think it's very possible that a key component is Conqueror's Haki. With the confirmation that this rare Haki has a utility outside of overwhelming weak opponents, several new doors of potential were opened, and the discussion turned from can Conqueror's Haki provide an advantage to how many advantages and what other purposes does it serve in combat. My thinking right now is that if Conqueror's Haki is vital to forging a black blade, then this will help explain why they are so rare. Because although any blade can become a black blade, not every person has the ability to forge one. And so once the pool of people shrinks from this, then there's a possibility that other unique factors are there to shrink it even further, which may come into play later on to help explain why some of the most powerful individuals ever don't possess one themselves. But going back to Conqueror's Haki, I think with it being revealed that Zoro has it and was able to use it in an attack is leading up to him figuring out the ins and outs of this ability in another encounter with Kaido. And earlier this week we had the anime itself dropping Zoro's casual use of Conqueror's Haki to knock out fodder, and I feel like this is kind of foreshadowing the significance of his King's Haki usage for later in the arc. Not just in chapter 1010, but even further down the road than that. Especially because we have other conquerors like Kid and Oden who haven't even been shown to use theirs, and yet we have all this emphasis on Zoro and Luffy using theirs. Speaking of Oden, here's a big thing I think is sometimes overlooked, at least at the point where we're at. Kaido said there will never be a monstrous samurai like Oden again, and even Yamato exclaimed that you will never see a greater samurai when she was talking to Luffy. This all serves as build up to the moment that Zoro turns Enma black, because at that point we as readers, and Kaido as well, will know that the monstrous samurai to surpass Oden is here on this very island. I see some people try to sort of make a samurai out of Luffy as a means to say he's the only one meant to fight Kaido and checks out all of the boxes necessary, so Zoro's involvement is baseless and unnecessary. And yet Luffy himself said you can't be a samurai without a katana, and given where we are now, that just helps to reinforce the idea that Zoro has to help with Kaido's takedown. And I feel like it's pretty noticeable that Kaido's reaction to Zoro on the rooftop and the effect of his Ashura attack was pretty lackluster. And it's not the fact that Oda's execution was poor or anything. It's the fact that he's saving Zoro for later to really prove himself and show that he's not this failure that couldn't even bring Kaido to his feet. Of course, there's the context that Zoro wasn't in the best condition to fight, but now he's taking the recovery drug and will be able to move freely and do what he has to do to show us things like, why did Kaido have to dodge the flying dragon blaze? Why didn't he take the attack head on like every other thing thrown at him? Because if you ask me, I definitely don't think Oda teases with this just to have a horn get taken off the island skull. It wasn't just empty hype. He's not going to leave this question in our minds and have us wondering what the outcome would have been or how powerful the attack actually was. So Zoro will definitely get a second chance to land one of these. And then we have Zoro's lofty declaration in chapter 997. He proclaimed, I didn't come on this island to waste time on a bunch of nonsense. I came here to cut down Kaido. And a big thing is that Oda did not have to do this. He didn't need to make Zoro say this just to have him succumb to the mentality of a silver medalist who couldn't even fulfill his own goal. He could have easily skipped all of this and made Zoro head straight for another matchup. So how can he ever hope to shake the world with his name if he comes up short here? But apart from just Zoro's declaration, the fact remains that Kaido has to die. And even if you don't think Zoro does it, the reality still exists that Kaido can't make it out of this arc alive. I don't think I have to go into detail about him having escaped prison several times and the various death flags for him throughout the arc, or the fact that he's been portrayed as unkillable even when he was captured by the Navy and sentenced to death. But recently we even have Kaido himself making it clear he doesn't intend to just leave Wano. So it's not like we can just reach some sort of compromise with him here, which also just altogether adds to the fact that he has to be killed to truly defeat him. And that supports the will of the people of Wano, as well as Oden. And when it comes to the people of Wano, it's been evident that throughout this raid on Onigashima, Zoro has been fighting and moving along with them in mind. They are the driving force for everything that he does here, and the relationships he has built are not without purpose. They are crucial to understanding his role and motivations in this arc and on this island. We saw Zoro manifest an anger in him that we have never seen at any point before when he learned about the hardships of the people that he met. And when he saw Kiku's severed arm appear on the live floor, he erupted and made it clear he's not here to mess around. He has a target, and it's not the commanding officers of Kaido's crew. It's not Queen or King. And he still has to avenge Yasue. And just like Oden realized, to truly liberate Wano and save people, you have to strike down the biggest boss at the top, and that's the Emperor Kaido. Even Yasue himself said, to avenge him, you have to head to Onigashima. And who's the person that has taken up residence on this island? And we're not exactly sure on the status of Kinemon and Kiku at the moment, or any of the other scabbards, but can you imagine if they're truly dead? Can you imagine Zoro's reaction if once he recovers he sees Kiku or Kinemon's corpse lying right in front of him? We saw how much his severed arm alone ignited a fire inside of him and prompted him to get down to business. So what will a dead body do? How fiery will his rage be then? I want to go back to the idea of him facing King and expand on that for a minute. And the main point for this is that he has to follow a pattern that's been set in stone for the entire series. But that presumed pattern had already been broken the moment he declared he wanted Kaido's head and set foot on the roof. And there's absolutely no build up there either. For Sanji and Queen, that was always in the works given the Judge connection and Sanji needing to save Chopper and all of that. But with Zoro and King, there hasn't even been a hint of any sort. But most importantly, King already has a matchup, and that's Marco. And Marco isn't about to just look over to the side and say, oh Roronoa, you're healed now, it looks like I no longer have to fight King. And Marco is extremely powerful in his own right, so I don't see him losing to King either just to force a fight against Zoro. This is a man who has already fought some of the strongest people in the series, and even took on a man with the 2 strongest devil fruits, who may even be the strongest individual alive. So I don't see why he would go through all of this just to lose to King. If Zoro was truly going to fight King, it should have been before Marco took him on, or before he went to the roof, because now we have a whole new set of elements to consider that take away from that idea entirely. And he's already expressed such a great sense of urgency to get back to fighting, despite the punishment he'll have to endure afterwards. It wouldn't be as hard hitting if it was all just to fight King, especially considering the fact that 2 emperors put him in this position. I think another very important aspect with all of this are the parallels that Luffy and Zoro have had with each other from the very beginning of the arc. With the connections they built on their journey through Wano as they witnessed firsthand the sort of suffering that was taking place, things became very personal. And we even see in the latest anime episode, they both express their frustration as the beast pirates around them are making fun of what the people are going through. And we know that they both built relationships with Kozuki Oden's children, and through them, they started on this path to save Wano. So as Oden lives on through his kids, the bonds they've made will be the reason that they are finally free and have their country back. All this to say that it's not just Luffy. Zoro as well has a stake in this battle against Kaido, and neither one can do it alone. As Oden said himself, powerful pirates, they will be the ones to defeat Kaido, not just one man on his own. And it's no coincidence that they're recovering and returning to battle at the same time. I think this is very purposeful and just follows the pattern that's been going on for the bulk of the arc. And there's still so much that Oda may have in store for Zoro along the way. In an SBS, he teased that we'd learn more about his lineage that has potential roots in Wano, and that might be an important plot point pretty soon. There was a figure that healed the scabbards that hasn't been revealed yet either, and that could easily be Hiyori. She might meet with Zoro again and play an important role too. And how could we forget about Ryuma and what he meant to this country, and the similarities between him and Zoro? Those parallels as well are still very present and may come into play later at the height of the battle. We're in the land of samurai, and Zoro not only has a chance to save the people living here from decades of tyranny, but he'll have the opportunity to truly make his mark on this world. As much as Oda treasures Zoro, he'll end the arc doing exactly what he came here to do. He'll take home gold and slay Kaido, as the numerous plot points I've mentioned converge for that sole purpose. And you know, I had a different idea of how things would go down at the beginning of the arc when it comes to the details, and I'm still not entirely sure on some things because, you know, we still have Big Mom being a major presence here, and I can't say for sure if Kid and Law will succeed in taking her down, or if there's some other avenues that Oda will have to approach. In any case, the one thing I feel pretty positive about is that Zoro will face Kaido again. What comes with that or after that, we'll have to see. But that's how I feel about it. And those are all my thoughts on the subject. But I definitely want to hear what you guys think on what Zoro's place is for the rest of the raid. Feel free to mention anything I might have missed or overlooked or wasn't clear enough on. Comment all of your thoughts down below, but also subscribe to the channel and like the video as well.